Hey everybody, it's your boy Jorge Bravo here. I'm telling you guys that you want to check out the 3 Count podcast. It's pretty awesome. Thanks. Have a good one.
Knew that she raised one. All of your hate won't change none. Who you think you are?
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count podcast presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller. You know, it's what I do. I host all these shows. It's what I do. But we have no one on the roster, so I'm flying solo. It is what it is. But this is the 3 Count presents Now Entering the Ring, which means one thing: we have a special guest for you. I have to be honest, okay? Like, we started talking before this podcast. I tried to research as much as possible as I could. So I had to go through all your IG page. I had to go through everything. And then I found out, because we talked about it, you literally started last year. And
Right.
you made some promotions. So please welcome to the show. I met this man on TikTok in one of my live streams. And I got to be honest, it was pretty cool to see. Give it up for the golden child himself, DJ Squared.
What's going on, buddy? Thanks for having me on, man. It's a pleasure. It's a real honor. First podcast, so thanks for the honor, man.
Yo, thank you. We popping them cherries. That's what we do.
Hell yeah.
It's so cool, man, because like this is it's a unique experience because I've worked with other guys who've also, it wasn't their first time being on a podcast. It was like we were in their first years, right? So it's awesome that I get to talk to someone who's kind of like in the same boat as me, because you had mentioned that you had started back in August, and I started in January of 2019. And
Yeah.
a mutual friend of ours, which is kind of crazy, Big Trouble Ben Bishop, actually started. I
Yeah.
think he started either August or October,
I
right
think it
around the
was
same time.
I think it was August, but again, don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I remember. I just know like he's in his first year now. Like he's going on to his second year, and I'm actually hitting my first year as well. So it's just crazy to think that here's somebody that like we're all in the same boat, man. It's it's
Yeah, it's
wild
it's
to think.
crazy. It's so cool to see like how many people are actually just starting out and are doing so well for themselves. Like for you, example, you said you've only like started a year and yet you already got a podcast. You talked a little bit. You already are getting bookings. Like it's so cool to see that it's such a different world for wrestling than it was back in the 70s, back in the 80s, where you would have to literally crawl your way to the top, and now you can do whatever you can do to try to make a name for yourself, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah, it's awesome to see like the openings that the world, like the social media world, like brings to you, right? Like this
It
podcast like has opened doors for me as far as like meeting new talent and like getting to, like I got an invite to go to South Dakota, right? And to be open and honest, like I'm from Nebraska originally. And I
Okay.
know our listeners who are listening to this and our viewers who are watching this, they know that because I talk about it all the time. But I got invited to go out to Midwest All Pro Wrestling by Lucky Lund, who his trainer is Eugene from WWE. And I was like, yo,
Right.
this is insane. Like, I was like, oh man, I got all these opportunities that are coming up are so cool.
Right. Yeah, it's so cool to see, but I mean, like you and I were talking about, there were so many opportunities at like the end of last year, like early this year, and now that COVID's going on, it's so hard for anyone to try to do anything. But I love that people are going more towards the podcast route, towards the online interviews, and still people are making names for themselves because of these interviews that they do. And it's so cool to see that even as a community, like we're still growing and we're still helping each other. Like even in these dark times, like it's so cool to see.
Oh yeah, I definitely love like being able to meet new talent and talk to new guys, and then you meet people who have like years and years and years. Like I was just like in this podcast alone, I think I've interviewed like 3 or 4 people who've had 20 plus years in the industry, and I tell people all the time that like I feel like because of this show right here, Now Entering the Ring, it's kind of like it. At first, it was kind of like the hey, we just want to here's your local wrestler kind of podcast, but
Right.
then like we start asking more questions about like how you got into the business, and obviously we'll get into your story too. But we
Oh
started
yeah.
asking that kind of those questions and stuff, and then we realized like, yo, like that the knowledge that you get from this podcast is like something you pay for in a seminar, and here we are like just talking shop with people and like getting to know like, oh hey, like you legitimately are passing down knowledge to the future generation, and it's kind of cool to think about. And I'm like, man, like I have my notebook, like it sits in the other room, but as soon as I start asking people advice and stuff, like I start jotting
Right.
all that stuff down, and like I just take notes after notes after notes. It's so cool to be able to get it. And I also think of it like an all night cram session in my first year, like legitimately I'm just staying up all night just listening.
Right. Yeah, I understand, man. I get it, you know. Like that's how I am with ring psychology, you know. You can never like study too hard, you know. Like it's got to be drilled in your brain that that you got to understand it, and studying is the best thing for you. I definitely think so.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, now like since COVID was like a thing and you had everything shut down for a while, what was your go-tos? Like where did you go to learn more about wrestling?
So my mentor is a gentleman by the name of Spotlight Marcus Knight. He's been in the business 20 plus years. In Erie, Pennsylvania. He's been in California. He's been everywhere. Um, and we train out of Ohio for a company called Rubber City Wrestling. He's a jet. Marcus has been a good friend of mine for about 5 6 years. He's been begging me for those 5 6 years. Hey man, you should be a wrestler. You got the body type. Well, you should come train. And I'm like, you know, it's just as much as I love the wrestling, I did not think that I could be a wrestler because my body type is very fluffy, as I'd like to call it. Um, so I always felt comfortable trying to go into a management role or trying to go into a commentating role. But even then, I was told by people, well, if you're going to do this, you still got to learn how to take bumps. You still got to learn how to do these things. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, if I'm going to learn these, why don't I just learn everything and just go with it, you know? And so I want to say March of 2019, I was at a show for Pro Wrestling Rampage in Erie, PA, and I got talking to Marcus a little bit more, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll get you trained, we'll get you set up, and we'll start going." Um, and unfortunately, at the end of March, the beginning of April, I had some personal issues going on in my life with some family and stuff like that, and that just kind of pushed it back until like June, and it was at another Pro Wrestling Rampage show. And me and Marcus, we got talking, and one of the guys in the back came up, started goofing around with me, pushing me around a little bit, and he's like, "Hey," and just kind of being a real cocky prick, as I like to call him. And he would just kind of shove me around, push me around, and then he looked at me, he was like, "Hey, what are you gonna do about it?" So I looked at the gentleman and I looked at Marcus, and I was like, "So Marcus, when are you gonna start training me so I can whip this guy's ass?" And that just kind of led to how it is, you know. I don't take bullies. I don't appreciate people that try to do that think they're better than everybody, and that gave me the final push, you know.
That's awesome, man. I was gonna say I remember like for me, like I was in the you're not supposed to be world, like the forbidden world as they would like to call it, just working. And this was all last year, and I just somewhere like August September I just kind of was just like, hey man, I'm just gonna go pro, and everybody was like what? And then I met one of my friends who was fairly big, his the postman, Vam. Shout out to Vam Williams. He pushed me, and he was just like, "It's time to go. We're gonna go. We're gonna go." And he just kept pushing me, and finally I was like, "All right, we're gonna go." And then I ended up meeting another dude named Kindred, and Kindred was like King Kamari. He was like, let's get you a trainer, and then they introduced me to my guy Sicken, and then yeah, just everything I took off from there, and then COVID hit, and all my training got stopped right in March. So I was like,
Right.
well, I don't have a choice. Like I have to keep learning. So then I went to the School of the Santino Bros on YouTube, and just started researching and watching videos, taking notes. And I started watching videos from Just Incredible and Al Snow, and I just kept writing notes, and just like educating myself and learning more about like ring psychology, especially, and learning about the business and reading videos or watching videos on marketing and like how I'm going to get my social media game together and all this stuff. So like that's how all of this like started to evolve. And then like a bunch of my friends were like, dude, we should do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, let's do. And then here we are.
And here we are, right?
Yep. So yeah, it's wild, man. So let's get into some of these questions, man. So like my first question for you though, man, is who is the golden child DJ Squared?
He's a prick. I'm not gonna lie. So the golden child came to be when I realized that I let people push me around a lot, and I let people take advantage of me. And the golden child is somebody that doesn't want it done anymore. He's had enough. He's all high and mighty about himself, and he's one that knows he needs to be in the spotlight and knows that he deserves to be in the spotlight, and he's gonna do whatever he can to be in the spotlight. And he's the golden child of professional wrestling, man. You know, everyone loves him. He's the one that everyone's gonna take care of and give him what he wants, which is what I need, which is what he needs to do.
I like it. I like it a lot. Like that's I like how you come out. He's a prick. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
right. I love the guy. I mean, it's almost like he's myself, you know, but he's a prick.
He's a prick. He's so seeing that you've been in the business for a year, like as far as like active, but like training wise, you know, you've always been around the business, it seems like, for a long time. So what do you think is like one thing that's missing from the business?
I don't think it's actually, I take that back. The one thing that I think missing more technical wrestling, more style, like submission style to wrestling. It's all about, all right, who can take the biggest bump? Who can do the biggest high spot? I think within the last 5 years, I definitely think the people that have brought that out the most, Daniel Bryan, Angel Garza, like Carrillo, like there's like a handful of guys like on the main rosters that focus more on the submission style wrestling, but you go to the independents and everyone's worried about what's my high spot? What kind of spot can I do? And it's so frustrating to see because I'm a big submission guy. My favorite move that I do is I do figure four back bend, like back bridge is one of my favorite things. Like not the figure eight. Well, actually, there's the figure eight that I do, and then it's the sharpshooter back bend, which is what I do, which is one of my favorite moves that I do. And I call that the F sharp, since I do DJing, all that. Hit you with the music note, you know.
I like it.
Everyone's like, why don't you just call it the FU? And I'm like, because I can't see the man who does it. John Cena joke there for our listeners. But I definitely think there needs to be more submission style wrestling.
No, I agree. I agree a lot. I know, like for me, one of my favorite people to watch is Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
New Japan. Like, oh my God! Like we were watching, we were doing film study. Hey, kayfabe aside, I was doing film study, and I was watching Zack Sabre Jr.'s match with Marty Scurll, and I was like, this was from WCPW 2018.
Yes.
And like, you know, he had this arm bar that transitioned to like a Rings of Saturn, and he grabbed dude by the knee and started jerking it back and just looked like a giant I'm sorry, it was Jimmy Havoc who got caught in a pretzel lock, and I was like,
yes,
I want to do this. So then I watched him do it to Jay Lethal, and I watched him do it to Marty Scurll, and I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this, and I'm going to.
Right.
He did a back bend, and like the way he snuck out, he ended up getting like a hammer lock. I was like, bruh, this is my dude. Like, I'm just taking notes. So like, guys, and it's funny, we were talking about this, right? So one of the guys that I really admire too, who's more ground technical, but he has some flashy stuff, but he's more ground technical, is TJP. Like, I'm a huge he's one of my mentors, and like I take notes. Like I watch all of his matches, and I go back and see his stuff like Chris Bay, and I see his stuff that he
Right.
was running with, Brian Kendrick, as well as like
Yeah.
the stuff that he did with Grand Metalik, as well, and just everything from WCW. And I watched his stuff
Right.
from New Japan. I watched his stuff from Lucha Libre USA, which like was the thing that was on like 97, 98. It was so long ago on
Yeah.
MTV2 when that was that was an up and coming channel. So like that 100% dates me, by the way. But like I enjoy that stuff, and you're right, man. Submission wrestling, I feel like it's kind of a lost art.
Yeah. I mean, you look at some of the great like submission artists of back in the day, you know, Arn Anderson, one of the guys that would do a lot of submission wrestling. Name no one ever wants to say in professional wrestling, but here I go and here I say Chris Benoit, a man who was a tactician and a man who knew how to counter locks with another lock. He was beautiful when it came to that. Do I agree with everything that's said about him? No, but when it comes to the art, when it comes to the craft, you can't deny a true artist.
You're right. Another one I think of right off the bat is Dean Malenko. Like there's
Oh
another
yeah,
dude that the man of a thousand holds, man. Like he's got that name for a reason. And just I can't. I mean, just like some of the things, man. I'm just like, yo, I can't wait to like get into a seminar with him and just listen to him talk. Like it's beyond me, man. So another piece, like it's funny we talk about these wrestlers and stuff like that we want to go learn from. So here's my thing from you, like, what kind of advice would you give to up and coming wrestlers?
study the hell out of chain wrestling, guys. And I mean that with the utmost respect. Don't worry about what's your high spot. Don't worry about what's gonna happen, like certain parts. If you can get chain wrestling down to a T and just learn that and study that, then you already control the pace of the match. You already know where it's gonna go, and you already know what to do and what to expect and what's gonna happen. Like chain wrestling is the key to any match. And I feel that every up and comer needs to, no matter how long you've been in the business, 5 years, 15, 20, 40, however long, chain wrestling is something that everybody should know and everybody should understand, like to a T.
And there you have it. Like that's great. That's a great move right there, man. Like I think that is a kind of a lost art. I definitely, me being like an older person just getting into the business, I felt like that was something I needed to know because I'm also an amateur. I was an amateur wrestler
Right,
for so long. So
right.
yeah,
So was I.
chain
When I was
wrestling
in
where it's at.
Yeah, when I was in high school, that's I did about 2 years of it in high school. I tried doing a little bit of it in college, but I just I was when I was in college, I was more focused on the social aspects than the educational aspects. Like I'll be honest, but it's all about focusing the holds, the locks, just chain wrestling in general. Like I'll give you an example. I trained with the gentleman, and he's been training for almost as long as I have, and he still can't understand chain wrestling. And it's hard for someone like him to understand because he's partially deaf, and you try to tell him, but for some reason he just can't pick it up, and I don't know if it's because he can't hear or whatever, but it's difficult for him. But and from the conversations I've had with him, he doesn't go home, he doesn't study. When he comes to training, that's the only training he does. So another thing I gotta tell the up and comers: make sure you study and train outside of classes. I'm not telling you to go home and jump on a mattress for doing your flip bumps, doing stuff like that. Like, I'm not telling you to do a lot of that. I'm telling you, go home, pick a match that you want to study and pick apart and take certain notes from that and watch what they do correctly and also watch what they don't do correctly. Like, even with talking segments, one of my favorite talking segments that I tell people that they need to watch to study was, I don't remember when it was, but it was the Randy Orton Jinder Mahal conversation they had. And Jinder Mahal put him up for the I can't remember what his finishing move is. Put him up for the finishing move, and he almost botched the finishing move. And no one would expect it because it's just a talking segment.
It's about the Colossus.
Yeah, the Colossus, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
I
He
remember
hasn't
that.
been in like a year, so he's lost meaning to me in my eyes.
I mean, double knee surgery. He's going
Did
back.
he? Ooh, I thought it was only the left knee, so that's on me.
Yeah. Well, he came back from like didn't he tell like his bicep? Then he like injured his knee, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
Then he said it was double knee
you're
surgery. I
right.
don't
I
know.
think it was that.
But yeah, it's wild, man. You're right. You're right. Like you should be studying all the time. Like here in a little bit, we actually, to pull back the curtain, we're recording this on a Monday, and Monday Night Raw is gonna be on. So, I'll be sitting there taking notes as well as putting my power rankings together for our podcast that we do, and like just you know, picking apart people and just following certain things. I'll see certain moves that I see a person do, and I'll jot it down my note. Like, this is a move that I want to hit. This is a move I want to do as a heel. Like, I definitely do that. Just I pick things, and I'm like, I like this. I like that. This is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to go with this. And so, yeah, I definitely understand. Also, the other thing, like, I know, like, I said this in my own episode when we did my episode that you can find on Patreon. But number one, like, to have a notebook, like take notes, have a notebook. I love this. That's my favorite thing. There's like two, like another one I got too was told, and I'll peel back even more of the curtain. Um, Prolific was on our show, and actually they were on a previous episode too. They said they had a sponge in their bag, because when they open up their bag and the sponge is there, it's to let them know like you're here to learn, so absorb all the knowledge you can. I'm like, it's great
That's
advice.
interesting. That's actually really good. I like that.
I was like, yo, that's so good. I want this. I'm gonna
Oh,
do this now.
one thing also, put a towel in your bag, guys. Like you like that like there's so many people that don't. But if you think about it, you come to the back and you worked like a 5-10 minute match, you're sweaty, like get a towel and wipe yourself off before you change into your actual other clothes. Like to pull back the curtain, like you said, like none of us stay in gear the whole time. As soon as we're done, some of us will hop in our clothes and go, But bring a towel, guys. Like, come on. I can't tell you. I keep 2 towels in my bag. I keep one in myself, and if somebody comes back super sweaty, I will throw them the towel. Be like, yo, come on, like come on.
Bet, man. And so, let me ask you, man. Like, what's been the worst bump you've taken?
So it really wasn't. So it was a tilt-a-whirl slam that I took from a friend of mine, but it was a tag team match. So it was me and my tag team partner, the High Note Brendan Martell, one half of Heavy Metal Heartthrobs. Go follow us on social media. Quick plug. Against my mentor Marcus Knight and his tag team partner Mr. Mike Smiley, part of the Pinnacle. And this was in RCW. This was an RCW Global match, which we air every Thursday on YouTube at 8 o'clock Eastern. So we try to take care of everybody and do that. So the move setup was I was supposed to be on the offensive, and just from the beginning, that match took such a bad turn. So I was supposed to hit the guy or give him a nice slap, and pull back the curtain a little bit. When you slap somebody, you slap him a little below the neck, kind of. I straight up just slapped this guy, just right across the face. I was like, yeah, pop, just. And you saw the look in my eyes, like you knew I screwed up. And I was like, so he went on the offensive, took it up, tagged in Brennan. They went up from there. I went in got the hot tag. I went in for the clothesline, and then he counted it, brought me up for a tilt-a-whirl slam. Then Marcus hit the rope, hit me with the big boot. When I took the boot, I didn't turn my head fast enough. So when I took the bump, or when I took the kick, he hit me a little bit like here in the left eye or whatever. So I was just starting to turn it where it kicked me in the face. And when he did that, I took the turn for the slam. Instead of tucking my head shim, I was still kind of concerned about my eye, and I let my head go back when I took the back bump. And you just see my head just go boom, boom, like right onto the mat. Thankfully, that was the end of the match. 1, 2, 3, I took the pin. But that by far was one of the worst pins, or one of the worst bumps I've ever taken.
God bless, man.
No injury from that, though, so I'll take it.
Bad bone, probably like the hardest. What's the hardest you've been hit? Was that it? Like getting kicked in the face?
No, so the hardest it wasn't really even hit. I got chopped really hard, and chops are no joke. But when it's initiation, and I won't go into an initiation with the guys, but you know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you already know what I'm talking about, where it's 10, 15 guys back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Your chest looks like hamburger meat, and you can't do nothing about it. And I had a handprint on my chest for maybe a week. Everyone did it calm. Like, everyone went calm, did it right, like, did it nice and easy. Last guy was like, all right, here we go. Whap as hard as he could. And I was like, thankfully I had my guy holding me up because I went to my knees on that one. I was like, no, like it was bad. I looked at him and was like, you motherfucker, man.
Yo, man, I definitely am well aware of chop fest parties. Like, it is the thing. It is a real thing. A real lot of pain, put it that way. A lot of pain.
That was a year ago and I still feel it.
So, I mean, really from there, man, like, I don't really have like any other questions for you, man. Like, this is just kind of like all this, but we do have what's called a world famous 10 count questions. So,
Woo!
that's how it works, man. We're going to fire off 10 questions at you, right? After that, it's the first thought that comes to your mind, man. So we're going to put on the imaginary timer on the clock. Bing! Starting off with our first question. Favorite wrestler?
Edge, Christian, and Steven Richards.
Bet. Night owl or early bird?
Night owl. Night owl all day, baby.
SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown. I got to go SmackDown.
Okay. Starbucks or Dunkin's?
Believe it or not, neither. I'm not a coffee guy.
Okay. That's fine.
I'm a tea drinker myself. I normally make my own teas and I drink my tea in the morning.
Earl Grey or black?
I gotta go black.
Okay.
Black tea's what's that.
We'll change this up right off the bat. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Okay.
Coke all day.
Braun Strowman or Mark Henry?
Ooh, that's a good one. I gotta go sexual chocolate. I gotta go Mark Henry all the way.
Favorite podcast?
3 count. Right here, baby. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? Like, what? Like, it's not like it was promoted at all. Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels?
Ooh. I gotta go Bret Hart. I have to go Bret Hart.
Hey, technicality. I get it. Technicals. Nominate one person that you would put on this podcast.
I gotta think about that. Marcus Knight. I gotta go my mentor. I gotta show my mentor some love. You know, if I eat at the table, he eats at the table. That's how it is. I make sure my friends and family eat at the table.
Hey, bet. I appreciate that, man. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Oh. I gotta go dipshit. I gotta go dipshit. As one of, I love just walking into Walmart, having something happen, and be like, "What the hell is wrong with you, dipshit?" Like, it's it's one of those bizarre ones where you never would have thought like it like it would come out of somebody's mouth, and all of a sudden you just hear someone say, "What you doing, dipshit?" Nothing. I'm all right. Like it startles someone when you call them that, and
I think I have to be honest. I think it's the first time I've heard that one on the show. Like,
let's go.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's the first time that we've had that one. So, very much appreciated, man. But
Yeah,
that
there you
is
go. Another word for your vocabulary.
that is that is the first that is our 10 count questions, man. So, only thing left to do is to tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram at dkozar2020. You guys can also find me on Facebook at either my profile, Golden Child, or my Facebook page, DJ Squared. You can also find me every Thursday on RCW Global, 8 o'clock sharp, or you can also find me possibly being on an interview for RCW Spotlight every Sunday at noon.
Bet. Or you can find them on TikTok.
There you go. Oh, there we go. My TikTok at Prince Petty 2020.
Yeah, that's what I was like. That's how I found you.
Yeah, didn't you find me on Mikey O'Shea's live? Like, I think that's where we like met.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
you sent me a follow, and I ended up following you back, and then I hopped in your live, and you were like, "Hey, want to come do the podcast?" Sure, I'm here. I'll do it. Why not?
I'll be honest, man. Like that's how I found like a few of the guys I've interviewed. I found on TikTok, and I just asked him like, "Are you a pro wrestler?" And like, yeah. I was like, "Do you want to come on a show?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Bet." Like that's how it's happened.
A guy, I don't know if you've had him on the show, but a guy on TikTok that you should try to get, Willie Finesse.
I've had Willie.
He's
Actually, Willie and I have we've done an interview together.
he's so good. He's my boy.
Oh yeah, I've had we'll talk more after the show about who's been on and
Oh
who's
yeah.
been off.
Oh yeah.
But you know, this is the Three Count Presents Now Entering the Ring. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, and I'm here with the golden child himself, DJ Squared. So, thank you guys for listening to this episode, and tune in to the next episode, and be there or be somewhere
Be
else.
squared.
What's going on, Three Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.